My father's parents came here shortly after 1900 from Belgium, and they were involved in farming. My mother's parents came here from Croatia during the same time frame, and they were fishermen. Parents settled into the Long Beach area, and my mother's parents settled into the San Pedro area, which aren't very far apart there in Southern California. I've always been real proud of coming from them because they came here with very little, and they assimilated, and they raised large families, and you know, they were really proud. They were proud of their heritage, but they were even more proud to be American citizens. I was born in Long Beach, and all four of my sisters were also. And we moved here in Tulare in 1960. My dad and my Uncle George purchased the ranch that I farm and what Brian farms today in 1958. Uncle George's family moved here a year before we did. They finished, he came up here to start one cropping season, and my dad finished up the previous cropping season in Long Beach. They were farming down there in the area of what's now Cal State Long Beach. Most of it was dry land farm, was wheat, lima beans, and sugar beets. None of this ground was owned. It was all sharecropped. It was something that my grandfather had done. They were married in 1950. Oh, so okay. My dad came home from World War II and farmed for a few years, and well, not farmed for a few years. He married my mother about 6 years later. My father came home from World War II, where he served in the Pacific with the Army, and he resumed farming with his father and my Uncle George, and then they farmed on the area which is now Cal State Long Beach, surrounding that, and that was ground that they sharecropped. It was ground that my grandfather farmed when they first came to this country. My dad and uncle purchased, their first purchase in Tulare was 560 acres, of which I farm and now Brian farms. Uncle George farmed here started here in 1959. My dad was a year after when we moved here. Uncle finished up, did the first year of farming here, and my dad finished up in Long Beach. I attended elementary school at St. Aloysius, then went to Tulare Union High School, College of Sequoias, and then Fresno State. And I like to say that I got my postgraduate degree at the University of Allen George Watte School of Agriculture, which instead of a diploma I received an old pickup, a pair of rubber boots, and a shovel. In 1974, I married Marcia Chaboyan. We went together for 5 years before that, and so we've been together almost 50 years, which is a testament to her. We've got 2 children, Aaron and Nicole. Nicole is a teacher in Sacramento. Aaron is a representative for a medical supply company in Hudson, Ohio, just south of Cleveland. And she's blessed us with 2 grandchildren, Jacob and Sophia, that own the biggest part of my heart. Like every kid growing up in a farm family, I worked during the summers and whenever as needed. And then after college, I worked at the Porterville Recorder and then the Hanford Sentinel for about 5 years total. And then I came back to work on the ranch here in 1979. A little bit of everything in Porterville, and at Hanford I was the sports editor, which is a passion of mine. The sports background, what it meant to me more than anything was the friends you make. On the field and all that is great, but what lasts forever are the friends you make. You can, certain of those groups, you haven't seen them, some of those guys, for 25 or 30 years, and you get together and it was like you saw them yesterday. You insult the same people you insulted 30 years ago, and they insult you back using the same insults. You tell the same stories, which my wife doesn't understand why we always tell the same stories. It's because they're good stories. But that I think is the real value in team sports. I know a major component of this award is community involvement, and I've been on the Mid-Valley Cotton Gin Board for about 17 years and was a trustee and later president for 2 years of Tulare Hospital Foundation, and for about 40 years I've been on the Max Sheboygan Race Committee, which used to benefit the Tulare Youth Service Bureau, and now we benefit the Greater Tulare Recreation Foundation. On the Cotton Gin Board is a real valuable experience because of the people you're exposed to. The fellow gin board members are a really bright group. I'm not sure I fit in, but I try my best. They're some of the best farmers around here, and that's one aspect in which I'm really blessed, that we live in a neighborhood with some of the best farmers in the world. You can learn a lot just by driving around the neighborhood and observing. I try my best to help out wherever I can, whether it be financially or being there on site. We live in a really generous community. I know of a lot of instances where people have had needs because of health issues and other troubles, that people rally and hold events, barbecues or breakfasts, and the amount of money raised at those things is tremendous, and it's just a real tribute to our community, which has been hidden somewhat by a lot of the troubles we've had in our community with the hospital, the city government, the cemetery board, and things like that. And that's all that a lot of people from the outside know about Tulare. Well, most of us that live there know that's a very tiny part of it, that we have a really good and generous community, and it's still a great place to raise a family, and no place I'd rather be. My involvement in community affairs, I think, began about 40 years ago when I became a member of the Max Sheboygan Race Committee. They named the race after my late brother-in-law. The proceeds went at that time to the Tulare Youth Service Bureau, which provides mental health services for the youth of our community. Now the proceeds are going to the Greater Tulare Recreation Foundation. I was elected to the Mid-Valley Cotton Gin Board in 2001. My father had served on that board from 1976 through 1996. It's a real privilege to serve on that board. It's a really good group of people with a lot of really good thinkers. I'm not so sure where I fit in with that group. We're the second largest cooperative gin in terms of volumes of bales produced in the San Joaquin Valley. Well, I guess you could say the state, because this is the only part of the state where there are cotton gins. Served on the Tulare Hospital Foundation Board for about 20 years, including 2 years as president. Once again, I sort of followed my father's footsteps there. He was among the founding trustees when the board was instituted in 1987. I can't say enough about the people that I served with on the foundation. It wasn't always the easiest the last few years. The foundation suffered along with, kind of followed the path of the hospital. Things weren't going real well. It didn't quite go as well with the foundation. But the people that hung in there and stayed with it are just a really dedicated group of people, and it's just a privilege to work with them. I've also been a volunteer at the World Ag Expo for about 20 years. I'm on the Park and Ride Committee, and once again has served with a really good group of people, and I think we provide a service that people appreciate, and it's also it's an honor to be a part of an event that brings such prestige to the city of Tulare. Only regret I have is that my mother, my father, my Uncle George, and my cousin Mark weren't here to share this with me today, because I know they'd be as happy as I am.